Kia ora, Kiwi Kodja here, and welcome to episode 66, Hongi Invades Whangaroa Part 2. Now, just before we kick off, I'd like to remind you of the 200th commemoration of Hongi Hika attacking Mokoia Island. It's going to take place in Rotorua on the 25th and 26th of March 2023, and I will be there, and I invite you to join me. I shall put a link to the invite video below. So we left part one with Hongi's forces gathering at Tauranga Bay. It's the last few days of 1826. There's been poor weather, which has meant forces are arriving in dribs and drabs. Hongi is stuck in Rangihoa, awaiting better weather. There's been an illness spreading amongst Māori in the bay. He hopes it doesn't impact on his plans. Hongi thought his trip to threaten Whangaroa Māori 18 months ago in July 1825, after the Mercury incident, had sorted things out with the likes of Te Ara, Te Pui and Matapo, but alas, they are a threat to themselves and to the missionaries, and most importantly, trade with the Europeans. This campaign has many aspects of a civil war. Those from the Bay of Islands and those from the Whangaroa area are invariably related, but that now means little. The die is cast. Because of Whangaroa's reputation with Europeans, it's been difficult for them to acquire a reliable supply of powder and shot. Hongi knows that he'll outgun them many times over. Many have left Whangaroa to escape the coming assault. Those remaining, around 1,000 Ngāti Po and 200 Ngāti Uru. The Wesleyan missionaries and their families are under the protection of Te Puhi, but everyone remaining in Whangaroa is becoming tense. With reports of the numbers swelling at Tauranga Bay, many from Whangaroa send their wives, children and old people to the refuge pa at Taratara. It's never been conquered, even by those with muskets. It's now well stocked to defend itself and withstand a long siege. Many of the pa around the harbour are abandoned. Toa concentrate in a select few that can be defended with the numbers available. On the last day of 1826, Hongi, his blind wife Turikatuku, and his toa arrive. On New Year's Day, 1827, Tareha and his men from Waimati swell the numbers to 600. Tareha and Ururoa, Hongi's brother-in-law, will be important generals in the invasion. Hongi sends messages to those in Whangaroa he considers allies to join him. It's an offer they shouldn't refuse. By Wednesday, the 3rd of January, all of Hongi's forces have gathered. There's around 800. For the seaborne invasion, there's over 20 war canoes of differing size. That night, Hongi holds a meeting of chiefs. Many want to minimise destruction for those they are related to. Eventually, it's decided to attack Funguru in Peka Bay, a rock pa, accessible from only one side, one of the homes of the Kai Tangata Hapu. Now, I haven't been able to identify Funguru, so I'm going to assume for this story it's the old name, or an old name for Opore Pa. On Thursday, the 4th of January, final preparations are made at Tauranga Bay. In the afternoon, the tide is right, the fleet enters Whangaroa Harbour and turns into Peka Bay. The canoes are in their full war regalia. The chant of the paddlers echoes around the bay. Every eye watches in awe. Those in Okahumoko breathe a sigh of relief as the fleet passes south and continues to the end of Tareri Bay, one of the few places in Peka Peka that this number of canoes can land and camp. After setting up camp and preparing the ovens, Hongi calls to the defenders. "You had better come down. I want to occupy that rock. It's the place of my ancestors." The Kaitangata chief replies defiantly, "If my brains are to be shaken as in a basin, they shall be scattered on the bones of Funguru." Pretty ballsy stuff, really. The smell of cooked flesh rises up to the defenders. The delicious aroma sends shivers down their spines. On Friday morning, as the dawn light begins, Hongi's warriors make their way to the one side from which the pa can be approached. The overwhelming numbers and firepower allow the pa to be approached and breached. Some wives who stayed with their men gather their children and escape down ropes whilst the warriors join in battle, and battle for time. It's all rather predictable. Hongi's forces enter the pa, and the slaughter begins. In 15 minutes, all before them are dead or captured. The search of crannies and caves begin. The scream and sudden silence interrupts the wailing of the captives. After a couple of hours, all is done. Bodies are butchered, heads taken, women assigned, and the rest start their lives as slaves. The forays are set on fire. It's important that the rest of the bay know they are here, know they are active, know they have struck. The women and children who managed to escape drag canoes from the bush and quietly launch them. They head for Ohara. It's not till they're opposite Okahumoko Pa that pursuit is given. They've a 1 kilometre start on the Wakatoa, but there's still 2 to go. It'll be close. Young boys and mothers put their backs into it. Ohara comes into view and draws closer, as do the Wakatoa. They land on the eastern side of the island. All on Ohara have been watching the drama. They are waiting to guide the women and children through the kainga and up into the pa. Te Pere orders the gates shut and barred. Everyone is in position. The Wakatoa stand off the island, then circle it. Muskets fire from Ohara. The canoes reply, then move out of range. Other Wakatoa begin arriving, adorned with heads. Spears with heads are thrust in the air. Blood drips on everyone. The canoes congregate, the chiefs korero. There were no plans to attack Ohara today, but striking after a victory is sound strategy. Tarea, a giant of a man, easily recognised by all, will lead the attack with his men at the eastern end. The rest will follow. 3 Wakatoa are to act as decoys and go to the western end. From the musket fire, they estimate that the pa has only 5 or 6 muskets. It will be a mass frontal assault. They will pour in musket fire to cover as axes and ropes breach the palisade. After that, their superior numbers and firepower should do the rest. And so it is. The palisade falls, then so does the pa. It's deja vu on their morning's work. Screams, shouting and firing slowly subside as Ohara is brought to its knees. All of this has been witnessed by those on Wairopo Island. They know their pa is not as formidable as Ohara. They abandon the island and head for the bottom end of the harbour, heading for Taratara. They are spotted by Hongi's forces, but no pursuit is given. They have their hands full tidying up from a day that has gone better than expected. As the sun begins its descent behind Taratara, Hongi and the rest of the fleet join the others on Ohara. The spillover of warriors and captives go over to the flat western end of Wairopo. Hongi passes the 2 cannons from the buoy that ceremoniously guard Ohara and inspects the summit. Bodies are being dragged to the eastern end and rolled down to the butchers. Many bodies of women and children who have jumped or been pushed are gathered from the base of cliffs. The ovens are prepared. Everyone is hungry. They will eat well tonight on their spoils. Those from Wairopo Island spread word of what has happened. Pa around the harbour empty. Everyone uses this night to gather what they can and head for Taratara. Te Pui at Pohuepa on the Kaia River has not replied to Hongi's invitation for Ngāti Uru to join him. With the invasion started, he wonders whether this delay is fatal. He sends word to the Reverend Nathaniel Turner at Wesleydale that in the morning he will collect the gunpowder he has stored there. Ngāti Uru, the missionaries, everyone is fearful. For the missionaries, Te Puhe joining Hongi is their best option. However, they don't know what their unpredictable protector will do. Te Puhe wanting powder could mean many things, all bad. Next morning, Saturday, the 6th of January, is a fine day. Hongi, Tareia and Ururoa are aware that the deployment of their enemy has now changed. They need to reconnoitre the harbour and make a new plan to suit. Ope are sent out to get the lay of the land. By mid-afternoon, most are back, some with bodies and captives. They report that Te Puhe is still at Pohuepa up the Kaia River and looks forward to joining Hongi. Apart from Okahumokopa, the harbour is empty. At the upper reaches of the Waihapa Inlet, they find many abandoned canoe. It's obvious all have fled to Taratara or beyond. There's only one decision for Hongi to make. Do they attack Taratara or Okahumoko? He knows Taratara. He visited it many years ago before the time of muskets. He knows that the narrow and steep spur that runs up to the plateau has a palisade guarding it. It is a formidable pa. Ururoa advises that with the introduction of muskets, the palisading has been replaced by large trunks, thick enough to make muskets useless. They'll have fuel, food and water to outlast any besieger. Other musket toa have had to go home in humiliation. It is a lot for Hongi to consider. At some stage, he'll have to deal with Taratara. The longer he leaves it, the better prepared they'll be. He's been working on an idea all day. If it works, then he'll be lauded. If it doesn't, then he'll be like others. Hongi smiles to himself. He thrives on these challenges. It's why men follow him. He requests Tarea to bring his nephew Titore to him. They talk long into the evening. Hongi announces that in the morning they will move to the bottom of the harbour to Pinea and start preparations for the attack on Taratara. He doesn't sleep well, his mind spinning with what needs to be done. There are many unknowns. He analyses contingencies. It is a long night that goes quickly. Well, folks, that's where we'll leave part 2. If you've enjoyed this, smack the like button and subscribe. Part 3 will see the unfolding of Hongi's plans for Taratara. I look forward to your company then. But until then, hei kona, take it easy.